Here's what happened. Last night, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan, he talked about success and failure. And I really liked how he put it, where success is getting as many pieces as you can lined up so that they're aligned and they're working. And then with failure, it's when you get so overwhelmed with so many different things that are not working. And how he tied it into was like if someone is, successful in their career and then they get into this relationship that doesn't work and then can be very overwhelming. And I take that into with building the business as the big decisions. Like there are so many thoughts that can come up throughout our day in our minds. And there can be a lot of this like regret. I think about that regret of either a past mistake that we made, decisions. And he talks about that too. And so it's focusing on creating peace here in your mind, and peace then that can go to the rest of your body. And for me, as I've built, my first business over a decade ago, gone through, the spaghetti phase of figuring shit out, I've realized that these big decisions come up where it's a moment to bring peace to yourself. But you have to tap into the courage to be able to face that so that you can move forward and continue to grow in the business that you're building and to continue to grow for yourself. And I want to get into an experience that happened where after I listened to that from Joe Rogan, it like woke me up. It's like putting your face in like cold water. It just was like, whoa. And I then had a big decision that came up last night that I had to make. And I want to get into more about that, of what it really feels like to make a big decision that can change everything. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you could be doing a bunch of different stuff. So I'm grateful that you're here. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. So I want to get present with you. I know you've had a lot of shit and challenges you've been dealing with leading up to this moment as you're building the business. And you got a lot of that afterwards. And I want to give this time for you because it can be easy to forget about that, giving yourself your own time to recharge. So you're going to do a deep inhale together through the nose. Going to release it out through the mouth. You can stretch it out. You could just sigh it out, whatever noise you want to make too. On the exhale, go for it. So here we go. Deep inhale through the nose. And release. Ooh. Whoa, there you go. Stretching it out. Yeah, I'm gonna do one more. Let's do one more. That was a shallow breath for me. So you can try to focus your breathing through the nose, bring it on down to your stomach. Try to breathe from the stomach, of just not even pulling or pushing, but just try to let the air pull in. Is how you can think about it. So here we go. Deep inhale. Pulling, less tension, and release out through the mouth. Woo, there you go. All right. That's a better vibe. There you go. So I got 2 commitments for you before jumping into it. First commitment is to continue to grow this show. And it's been incredible to witness the growth. Just celebrating 9 months. Today's Wednesday. I'm recording this. So yesterday was 9 months since the launch of the show. And it's been mind-blowing to witness what's happened for my own growth, for the growth of the show, for the impact it's having on your life. It's fucking incredible to witness. And it's fuel for me to keep moving forward and keep going. Second commitment I have for you is to be honest with you. One of my main reasons for hitting my burnout after the social media conference I founded in 2018, where over 500 people came together. It's like 500 attendees, got volunteers, got the team, speakers coming in, was the amount of lying that I was doing was one of the main reasons. I lied so much along the way on so many different things. If that's how many attendees were actually showing up, to lying to my teammates and lying to myself of how I felt physically and then emotionally, and then lying about having it all figured out when I really had no fucking clue in a lot of moments what the hell I was doing. I was just like trying to get through the next challenge and the next one and just keep going and get this thing over with. And so what happened is I had immense amount of pressure that was building in my body that I had no way to release because I was so scared to tell the truth. And so afterwards, what helped me and really what felt like it saved me in that moment and gave me peace and was a big decision was to be brutally honest. And from there, brutally honest with all the mistakes I made. I remember sending an email to vendors saying I fucked up was one example of that. But now honesty is such an important value of mine. And it's what I want to bring into the show is to the best of my ability, share with you what it takes to make burnout extinct and to remind you that it absolutely is possible for you to make burnout extinct. So thank you for being here. Let's jump in. For today, what I want to talk about is how making a big decision really feels when it changes everything. And that's what it can feel like with a lot of these different big decisions that come up looking back. It's easy to look back and be like, yep, shit, that changed everything for either leveling it up for the foundation of how you're building the business and then how you're showing up to the business and then showing up for other people in your life and showing up in your relationships for your health and fitness. If that's looking at this big decision that you have to make of how do I take care of my health as I'm building this business too and not ignoring it, could be one. Or for the past mistakes and the lying, similar to me of the lying that I did, how do I don't know if I want to use fix in this way, but like, how can I create more peace on the other side of the mistake that I made? How can I get the lesson from the mistake and then make the changes necessary and to bring peace? And for me, that was being brutally honest for that example. And so I want to get into what happened for me last night, listening to Joe Rogan's podcast and then having that wake up of this big decision that I'm facing. I want to talk to you about the feelings that can come up at the beginning. And even before that, the habits that I put the reps in to get me to that point where then I can face this big decision, which is like, you can imagine it like this big boss. And then what happened during that process of actually processing all the emotions that were bubbling up and the sensations that were bubbling up in the body, facing them and moving through them. And then on the other side, how I felt for after processing it in that moment, what happened for me, and then the clarity that formed. Because you've already made a big decision as a business owner, and that is to start your business in the first place. And then with each new stage that you move forward in, you can think about it as levels of success. You can think about it as the growth for yourself in the business. But at each one of these stages, there can be a big decision that comes up or a couple big decisions that come up. And how I think about it is this pressure balloon model where your body is constantly looking for perceived threats. And so you may have had years of a pressure balloon, you can imagine it, pressure balloon filling up in your body. And that could be the fear of success. Are people going to still love me if I'm successful? Are people still going to have my back if I'm successful and more successful than them in certain areas of life? If that's thinking back to the business, thinking back to the health and fitness, to communication, whatever it is that you have the big decisions that you're focused on as you're building the business. And so that fear, that big balloon that can fill up, it can take a lot of energy and effort to then process it. And it can feel super overwhelming. And the issue is, if you've had a few of those big decisions and they've been really painful to move through, you can get the body into then this habit where you avoid and you distract yourself and you try to suppress the feelings and the emotions rather than honoring that they're there and then moving through them and doing then the action that is going to help you to bring peace on the other side of those big decisions. Even right now, as I'm talking about it, it comes back to me last night. And so what I want to talk about is this pressure balloon that that's been building for years since starting my first business over a decade ago. And then last night, I finally was able to face it for the big decision. And that was this fear I have of success. I've had it for a lot of years, and there have been moments where I've experienced that, like the conference, where there's like this big win and then something really, awful or shitty or something that either a big mistake I make happens on the other side of it. It's that idea of like when's the shoe going to drop on the other side of something amazing happening. And so I was creating a pattern for myself. Wherever I had a win, I then had a loss. And pretty close right after that win. Thinking back to the conference, organizing, bringing 500 people together, first time ever doing a conference like this. And then what happens right after? Burnout for me. Like I have to then let go of my team, made plenty of financial mistakes where then I had to take on that business debt personally and own up to that because that was taking accountability for myself. But then I wasn't able to put energy towards doing a year 2 of the event, and it never happened. And so that was the pattern I was in for this loop, and it was causing me to stay stuck. And so what I focused on leading up to last night was, what are the habits that inevitably are going to cause me to have to face this fear? And I may not clearly be able to find what the fear is, but I just know that I'm looking for more. I feel this urge inside me of I'm capable of more. I want more in a certain area of the business. And so what can be those habits I can focus on for putting the reps in to get to that point where I can face that decision? And so that's what was happening for me. A habit, looking back, because it's easy to look back and notice the patterns. One habit I was focused on was movement and working out as I was building the business, and it was consistently stretching was one. So finding ways to connect back to my body, because I have a habit of being able to numb emotions or sensations, or like suppress them and avoid them, and that just so I don't deal with them and I just keep moving forward and showing up. And so by connecting, having these moments to like stretch or do like trying to think of some other stretching was a big one for me. And then like small movements too was another one, like focusing on posture, noticing the different small muscles on my back and focusing on those that I ignored to help me with my posture. Like those were opportunities for me to reconnect and notice the pressures and the tensions in my body. And so by being able to notice that and bring more awareness there, that's where then I can notice the pressure balloons. And that fear kept coming up as I kept doing this. Was this fear, it'd come up, maybe every few weeks, this fear of success. I'd talk it out, but I still felt like I didn't make the decision, moving forward and just embrace and like being able to bring peace to myself, because it kept coming up until last night, until I heard that success and failure combination from Joe Rogan, and the how he talks about it and how I shared it with you is like, we can have so much of these tornado thoughts, is what I call them, going on in our minds, of like the regret, past mistakes that we made, things that we're not proud of ourselves, and things that we want to change, but we feel like we can't. And all these tornado thoughts that can just keep us stuck and keep us at a certain level of success. And hearing that, and then hearing the success and failure, it brought back right into focus this fear of success for me. And so what that looks like in my life is this. I don't really know exactly where it came from, no idea, but it was this fear of success of, if I continue to grow for my life and, if it's in finances for the business, growing in the impact that's having for the business, how many people I'm serving and supporting, what will happen is the people that used to love me won't love me anymore. That was a fear. The people that used to have my back won't have my back anymore. And I've experienced it where friends have come and gone. So I know what that's like, and it can feel very lonely. But for me, that fear has been this big pressure balloon in my body that I've been having to just continue to move towards facing and pushing a little bit closer and closer and closer towards it. And so what I had to do in that moment was I remember getting up from the couch. I was on the couch. Adriana, my life partner, was right next to me. She was watching a show. I was eating my dinner as I was watching this. And so I had to like get up, and like my heart started pounding and like racing. And, if I hadn't known any better, I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking back to the patterns where I would have to go to the hospital because like my heart was pounding, feeling like I was having a panic attack or like anxiety attack. And I remember getting that same sensation. And then the thought came in of like, dude, you may have to go to the hospital. And really what that was for me was wanting someone outside of myself to tell me that I'm okay. Having that confirmation that I'm all right, that I'm okay. And it's something in the work that I share for these big decisions that you make. It's important to have someone there someone that you trust. If that is a partner, friend, or someone that's in this work of helping you to navigate the big decisions that you're making and the body sensations that can come up. I think back to my somatic teacher, Annabelle, that really helped me with this. So I noticed that thought of like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go to like a hospital. I feel it. I'm like pacing back and forth. My hands are on my heart. I'm trying to breathe it through it, trying to just like face this thing rather than avoid it, rather than suppress it, because it'd be so easy to push it down and just ignore it, numb it, whatever. But it was for me in that moment of like, all right, dude, I'm facing this. This is hitting me right now. I can do this. I can do this. And I kept reminding myself like, it is possible. Like I can do this. I got this. And it's something I tell you, it's like, you absolutely got this. And so I paced a few more times for a few minutes. It wasn't calming down for the heartbeat. And I felt like, okay, I got some intense emotions that are going to be coming up. And so I turned to Adriana. I said, hey, I'm not okay right now. Like I'm not feeling great. Something's going on. And so she was like, hey, why don't you come down, like come over here and like, let's connect. And like, I don't know if she said connect, but she's just like, come over here. Like come here. And so I went over to her and I remember like grabbing her hand and just like curling up. And my past me, I think back when I first started business, I'd be like, this is fucking weird. Like this is weak, or I'm not supposed to do this, of like releasing emotions. But I remember holding her hand, and then, she was just there comforting me. And then I let it out. Like I let out the tears. I just like, it came pouring out. I think back to Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to remember the movie, but it was where the trees that come alive, they went to this big dam, and they opened up the dam. And I just remember this line where it's like, release the river. And that was what was going on. I was like pouring, crying, just releasing it out in that moment, and like honoring that fear of moving to new levels of success, the fear of people not loving me as I continue to move forward and succeed, the fear that people aren't going to have my back. And I've realized it is such a common fear that can come up for you. And what happened was I had to verbalize it. So I was talking out saying, this is the fear I'm experiencing. This is what's going on. And she was just there to let me know that, hey, like she's here for me. And she's going to be there for me. And she loves me. And man, that's such a beautiful gift to get, was hearing that from her. And if you got a life partner like that, hold on to them. Or if you got a friend like that that's got your back, hold on to them. They're priceless. And I just remember continuing to cry and release, and like noticing the wave of emotion coming up and releasing out and just letting it go. And that is strength. That level of vulnerability, I think about that for me, is being a man, of actually facing it rather than trying to numb it, avoid it. I was able to face myself in that big decision. And you can think about it as like a boss at a level in the game, where you got to face that boss if you want to move on to the next level of life. And there takes a lot of courage, of having to tap into that courage and then processing it. And so literally I'm just like curled up in this ball, releasing it out and wondering, when is it going to stop too? Like I even like had some like drool falling off on Adriana's arm. And I'm like, ah, shit. Like I got to wipe that off real quick as I'm just like curled up with her, cuddling up. And then I go back to this quote. It was one of my mentors in speaking, Eric Edmeades. I've learned a lot from him. He says one of the fears of men is that when they cry, it's a fear that they'll never stop. And so that's where it can be so easy to avoid and like suppress and push them away. But eventually the body's going to let you know. I always come back to that. With burnout, how I define it is it's a major life transition that's forced on you by your body. And so by embracing it, honoring it, the intensity started to lower for me. And it took me a while. I don't know how much time went by. It was a long time. I mean, I don't think it was over an hour. I do not think that. But it was a while for me to process it, talk it out a little bit, but more so just process it. I didn't really need to speak words, it's, something like, don't have to talk it out all the time. You just got to feel it and be there and know that there are people there in your corner. And so then on the other side of it, what I felt was relief. I felt clarity. I felt openness and expansiveness. I felt like where my eyes were, it was just like this lightness. It felt like you were emptying out the tank in like a water tank, like emptying it out, and just felt open and just light around my eyes. Like I'm feeling them right now. And so it weren't so puffy, especially in my heart or near my heart and chest. Like it felt open. The heartbeat wasn't so intense. There was there was a feeling of calm. And then knowing that I was able to face that fear and move through it, and now it won't be as intense of a fear anymore. And I actually can help me to move forward with clarity, and I know the direction I can move forward in. But it was relief on the other side of it. And then peace in my mind, peace in the rest of my body that came over me by facing and making that big decision. And then what I've noticed a few hours later now is like, it still comes up a little bit, that fear, but it's not as intense anymore. It's not as controlling anymore. I can decide my choices that I'm going to make moving forward and decide the direction or make the choices moving forward now without that fear being in the driver's seat. And that's what I want for you as you're building this business and as you're figuring out your own personal growth and the quality of life that you want and the levels that can happen there. Is it can be so easy to get in the moment to stay stuck and to avoid. But over time, that can just lead to regret. When you know that deep down there's a big decision that's coming up for you that you have been avoiding or pushing or suppressing. And to even open up the possibility of that big decision, it can create an intense amount of pressure and overwhelm in the body and stress. But when you can face that and you can move through it and go through that experience similar to what I did, and then you get to the other side of it, that opens up a whole new doorway of possibilities for your life and for this business and helps you to stay in the game because you're able to let go of that pressure and increase your capacity in your body to handle then more challenges that are going to come your way. And you can stay in the game longer and continue to move forward. And then it doesn't become so shitty of an experience either. You can actually find moments to enjoy and have fun along the way. Because what also had happened for me last night going into this morning is now my confidence has expanded. I felt that. I felt an expansion of my confidence to handle new possibilities that are going to come my way, new challenges that I'm going to have to face in the business. I'm like, I'm prepared a little bit more. I feel like I got more you could call it armor. I mean, I just feel like I got more. I'm almost thinking like it's like a superpower. Like I could just like I have some extra fireballs I can fire out and like handle it and get this shit under control is the vibe. That's what comes up for me. But when you're faced with a big decision, I want to walk through some things to remember. First is that it's not going to happen overnight to like make that decision right away with a fear that's been with you for years. If that's a fear of the success, similar to one I had, or it's a fear of judgment of other people, or the fear that people are going to come and attack you. If that's you posting videos online or sharing a message in front of a group of people, that fear of public speaking could be one for you. Or the fear of asking for the sale could be another one, is that you still do it, you're still performing, but there is still that fear there because you can avoid these emotions and avoid these fears, but for only a certain amount of time. Eventually the body will let you know at some point and it'll come back. I've learned that the hard way with my burnout. So you have these big decisions. It's thinking back to maybe one or two that are coming up for you right now. And then again, it goes back to what have been the habits that you're focused on for putting the reps in. That can be small habits that can connect you or can move you closer to making the big decision, which is what happened for me last night. And one of them for me was creating movement, stretching, moments to find ways to reconnect with my body so I can notice the pressures and tensions of my body. And that was one example. But what could be a habit where doesn't feel as intense to actually then to make the big decision, but it's easier to put a rep in for this habit, and it can get you closer to tapping into more courage to then make the big decision. Because with anything new, it can create uncertainty for the body, and that can then create intense pressure, resistance, discomfort in your body. And if you have too much of that discomfort, what's going to happen is that you're going to shut down. You're going to then try to avoid it, numb it, and that can cause it to, it can cause trying to think of what's coming up for me with this. It can create a longer time horizon then for you to then come back to making that big decision. That's where you could have worked towards making the big decision. You make it, but then let's say for communication, you step up on stage, you communicate in front of a group of people, you face your fear, but you haven't prepared your body for that capacity or the capacity to handle what's going to happen on the other side of it. And so what can happen is like a pendulum swing. You've done the thing, then your body like freaks out and is like, oh shit, you just did it, and then can swing you back to staying stuck and not getting back on stage for like years, even though it's something you want to do because of how intense and overwhelming the sensations were for the body. So I hope that makes sense. So it's helping to prepare yourself, and those habits help you to prepare for then the big decision, where then you process the emotions, similar to what I did. And it's remembering three things in that process. Well, four. One is having someone there. Like, I don't believe you can do it alone. I really don't. I feel like either having someone that you can work with. I think about that for me with helping entrepreneurs is being able to be there and letting them know, hey, this is natural for the sensations that come up. I remember doing that for one client and just being able to let her process. She was crying, she was like releasing, and for processing what was going on in the day, and just letting her know, hey, this is natural. Or if it's not someone you're working with, having a life partner there, friend, someone you trust, someone there to be there with you, because we're meant to be with other people as human beings. And having that support system there, just one person that cares, is really important. If not, seek that out for community if you don't have that right now. Then it's remembering the three things. One I already mentioned. It is natural. It is natural to experience big, overwhelming sensations in the body. And then the other one is reminding yourself you're safe. Last night, I was on the couch in the living room with Adriana. I could tell myself, I'm safe here. I'm in this room with someone I love here right now. I'm all right. And then the third one is reminding myself it's temporary. It's reminding yourself it's temporary. With any of these emotions, it is temporary. You can get through to the other side, even if it does feel like it's taking forever. It's giving, the more you can be open to moving through it and acknowledging it for the emotions that bubble up, this pressure, this tension connecting to that in the body, the faster you can then move through it. But it can be different for what that looks like, depending on how big the pressure balloon is, going back to the pressure balloon model. So having those three things, as well as someone that you can trust or someone that you're working with to support you, can help make it where it doesn't feel so exhausting on the other side of this, because you will feel exhausted. You're going to feel really tired. Your body's going to want to relax and just chill because you've been carrying this weight for so long, depending if it's been a fear of yours for years, for those big decisions. And so what is happening, what's to make sure for you to create is space for yourself to relax. You might, like what I ended up doing was watching a show. It was on Netflix. I hadn't seen it, but it's been around for like, I think a decade. It's Kill Tony is the show, comedy show, super funny, really like it. I'll have to get more into it. But I watched that just to laugh, just to like take a moment to like breathe through it and not make it so like it's one of those moments, don't take life so seriously here. But it helped my body to relax even more. And then giving me that space, because I was thinking about working and I'm like, no, I'm going to take the night off and remind myself that tomorrow's a new day to reset. And that's a reminder for you, is that tomorrow is a new day to reset. And so with that big decision that comes up for you, it's remembering that, it's going to feel like a boss that you're facing for a new level. You can prepare yourself beforehand, make sure then you are able to move through it and remember the three sayings I've shared with you of like, it is natural, you are safe, and this is temporary. Then on the other side of it, what you can feel is that softness, this relief, this openness. may be super unfamiliar. You may not be familiar with it. So giving your body that space and time to process it, of like, this is possible. And then what happens is then your confidence can expand. And going back to like superpowers, it feels like you got these superpowers, like you can fire, you can have extra inventory of like fireballs that you can fire out to these challenges that you're going to face and destroy them, is how I like to think about it. And it's like confidence that you can't fake. Like, right, there's those that can fake confidence. This is like deep confidence of like, you got this. And that's such a beautiful gift I want to give to you. And then as you go through and create your system with this and do this a few times, the more familiar you get with something, I go back to this saying, the more you understand, the less fear grows. And so the more you understand your own patterns and what's happening, and you realize, oh yeah, this is part of it, it helps to lighten the amount of pain that you can feel and the overwhelm in the moment. And then on the other side of it, it helps to expand that confidence. And so whatever it is for you, for that big decision, what I want to remind you of is that you have the capabilities to be able to move through, make that big decision, making sure you have a plan in place for yourself, having people that you trust there, or a person you trust, or someone you're working with this, so you don't do it alone. And then reminding yourself that all these emotions that you feel that can bubble up, it's a reminder that you're feeling alive. It's so fucking awesome to feel alive, even if it feels terrifying at the same time. Looking back, I've noticed every big decision I've made, looking back, it felt like it's changed everything. Changed for how I show up as a better communicator. The one I think about with that is like, I'm now not scared to curse, because in the past I used to think like that wasn't professional and so I shouldn't do that. But even though I know it feels fucking right to curse for me at certain moments. And so having to work through that for a big decision. The other one was getting on here and sharing with you for the podcast is another one. The being able to actually connect to my emotions. That was the work with my somatic teacher, Annabelle. But man, it feels fucking great to be alive. And it's a reminder for you, wherever you're at in your journey on this, as you're building the business, where you start isn't going to be where you end up. It's remembering to show up, put the reps in, and then celebrate those small wins, because they lead to the big wins. And celebrate when you make those small decisions of showing up and putting the reps in, because that helps to lead you to the big decisions. I want to remind you, if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You have these capabilities within you to listen to your signals from your body, and then make those changes to the behaviors, to the habits, so that you move towards making burnout extinct. And it's a reminder for you, absolutely making burnout extinct is possible for you. And it does require moving through these big decisions so that you don't end up getting forced out of the game. But you get to choose how you move forward in life and in building this business. You got this.